Well, Angelo Zino, he's SVP and technology head at CFRA Research, covers Apple, and he joins me now remotely. Angelo, it's great to have you on the show. And look, as we see a broader market pointing to gains here at the open in just about 15 minutes, Apple's stock is notably lower. What's at play?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Kristen. When we kind of look at maybe some of the investor frustration here, after the results, clearly there are a number of things here. I'd say the tariffs are top of mind. How Apple plans on shifting their manufacturing capacity from China to India is a big part of this story. But really, what we don't know as far as the tariffs are concerned is, yes, there's a $900 million charge here in the June quarter. It equates to only about 5 to 6 cents in terms of EPS hit. But there are going to be permanent tariffs. Right now, they are exempt. Those permanent tariffs will probably go into effect sometime in the second half of the year once we get the semiconductor 232 investigation really sorted out. So there's a lot of uncertainty on the tariff side of things. The other unknown and maybe kind of concern for us was the fact that they didn't provide guidance on services. And typically, they do provide guidance for the services business. It typically is a very good, visible business, higher margin business for them. The fact that they didn't provide that guidance, I think, is also spooking investors right now.
How does the sum of all of these parts, Angelo, impact your view on the stock over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so over the next 6 months, I'd say, listen, there's an opportunity cost, right? There's probably better places to be over the next 6 months in the tech space. We continue to favor software over hardware because you don't have that tariff overhang. Not to mention, we just saw some stellar results out of Microsoft. The AI story is working itself out. So on the large cap side of things, favor software over hardware. But when you start thinking 12 months from now, you start looking through some of the uncertainty over the next couple of months. We do think Apple will have a better idea of what to do with tariffs. We expect them to pass it through to consumers. And then as we go into 2026, we think the narrative changes for Apple. You start talking about new form factors like foldables in the fall of 2026. You start talking about potentially them getting AI right. So we do think the narrative changes, but we do need to start seeing also a simmering of some of this U.S.-China tension that's out there.
Okay, you mentioned they will pass on those price gains to consumers, Angelo. So for all of us iPhone users out there, when do you think consumers might expect higher prices?
So typically the way Apple works is they'll increase prices on a new device launch, right? So again, my guess is we probably get some clarity on the semiconductor 232 investigation before the September launch of the iPhone 17. And at that point, I think Apple can make a decision on what they plan to do on the pricing side of things with the iPhone 17. I think it's unrealistic to think that they're going to eat up all the costs. So my guess is probably this fall we start seeing higher prices. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they increase prices across the board on the Mac, iPad side of things, because they just did announce some new Macs and iPads, and in some cases actually lowered prices. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what they do across the board. But on the iPhone side of things, definitely expect, we think, some sort of increase.
What does it mean for this company, Angelo, that we see such high tariffs, triple-digit tariffs in place when we look at trade between the U.S. and China, knowing that some people in China are iPhone users? And on top of that, that Apple now does plan to shift some of its supply chain, as you referenced earlier, really focusing on India and Vietnam.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, on the tariff side of things, it's not going to be triple digits for Apple, right? They are exempt right now, and it is going to be based on that 232 trade investigation on the semi side of things. We think it's actually our base case is about a 25% tariff, but again, we'll see what happens on that side of things. But as far as kind of, maybe the manufacturing shift as well as the China local demand implication there, we think potentially by the end of next year, we see almost all of U.S. needs for iPhones coming from India. When you look at what Tim Cook said just last night, he did point to the fact that now more than 50% of all U.S. iPhone needs are coming from India, which was higher than what I had expected, to be honest with you. Now, as far as kind of the China local demand, We think it's going to take somewhat of a hit, but over time, we think kind of there is a very loyal base out in China. And given the fact that Apple will launch Apple Intelligence here over the next couple of months with Alibaba, at its side, and then talking about foldables in late 2026, something that the Chinese consumer loves. We think those factors will eventually kind of help stabilize that China market. But over the next 3 to 6 months, expect some demand disruption there.
Okay, Angelo Zino is SVP and Technology Head at CFRA Research, covers Apple as a stock. Angelo, thank you.